The Hohe Kirche is a mountain basically in my home mountains. It's just a 45-minute drive from where I live, and that's why I went there twice already, or actually more often. I once put up a new route soloing, and then a few years before or even after, I don't remember, I was there with a friend of mine, really close friend of mine, and we tried to put up a route on the central buttress of the Hohe Kirche, and we ended up bailing halfway up maybe the mountain, because it was super deep snow and bad conditions, and we were running out of time anyways, so it was just the right decision at that time. Quite some years passed since that experience, and this winter conditions were great in the Falsertal, so where the Hohe Kirche is, and I asked my buddy Ben if he wanted to join me again and finish off our project, but he couldn't, and he also said that he wasn't too psyched for it anymore. So I returned by myself because I knew the conditions were perfect and I wanted to tick it off, and went there and yeah, found good conditions and climbed it in a day. The first couple of pitches I already knew, and then I was soloing most of them, and then on the upper pitches I started belaying myself, and yeah, did a few pitches with super loose rock, big blocks laying around that you have to overcome and climb around. So it's the last two pitches or so are not as good as the lower part. On the lower part I was super psyched. I was like, I can recommend this to a couple of my friends too. But then on the upper part, yeah, it just makes it maybe too adventurous. Solo climbing, you know, it's tempting. It's certainly is an intensive thought that you have to have. It's you have to be convinced in a different way than you have to be when you're climbing with a partner. That's maybe one of the big differences, that you cannot share your feelings with someone. You cannot share your thoughts and your fears. It's really you yourself have to make all the decisions, and that's maybe one of the biggest differences between climbing big mountains, especially at higher altitude, with a partner or without. You know, my partners just had a bad feeling about going back to Annapurna 3, and you know, in the end it was really just a feeling thing. That, and if you attempt a peak like Annapurna 3 and you have the feeling that something's not right, something's just not feeling right, then I think the only reasonable thing to do is actually to listen to that feeling, because in the end your feeling consists of many different impressions. Impressions like wishes that you want to do it on the one hand, on the other hand also it's fears, it's rational thinking, it's stuff that you go through in your mind, and yeah, we discussed all of it and came to the conclusion that it just doesn't make sense. If you're not 100% convinced that you know that you want to go there, that you want to do it, that you're able to do it, then you have no chance anyway. Annapurna 3 is definitely on my list. It's, you know, Hans-Jörg, Alex and I, we attempted it once, and we reached a new high point. We put in a lot of effort and time, and really, I think, gave it our best. And at that time, unfortunately, we found really bad conditions on the mountain. We got a lot of snow, and yeah, at some point had to decide that we have to descend, and we wanted to try it again, but then, yeah, Alex and Hans-Jörg, they didn't feel right, so we decided to not go there again. And but it's definitely something that is in our heads, and that, you know, I definitely want to go back. This fall I'm going back to Lunagri, yeah. You know, I talked to Conrad about it, and Conrad, you know, took some time and thought about it, but in the end he came to the conclusion that he just cannot go back anymore. And this is something that I, you know, to be honest, 100% understand and also in some ways support. And you know, I think he really stayed true to himself, and he gave it a good go, and we tried hard. But yeah, he feels that he cannot go back, so I decided to go by myself. And
Alone?
yes, alone. And yeah, it's gonna be exciting, and I've been preparing this whole summer already for this trip. So last time that I tried to climb it by myself, after Conrad's heart attack, I got to a point of like 300 meters below the summit, something like that. So I was close on the one hand, and on the other hand still a couple of meters out. And yeah, hopefully this time will work out. I'm not going to judge what my most important achievement has been. You know, Cerro Torre was certainly a very meaningful one to me, because to me it really represented that step away from competition climbing, from sport climbing into the alpine world. And that was a tough but a very important process in my opinion, and I wouldn't want to have anything changed. It was not to prove any of the critics wrong that I, in the end, you know, kept trying to free climb Cerro Torre. It was really because this was a dream of mine, and you know, I had that vision that free climbing the head wall and free climbing the bowl traverse was possible. And since I had this idea, I got really hooked on it, and I really wanted to make that happen. And I knew that I would have returned a fourth time or maybe even a fifth time, because I was so convinced that this was possible, and I was so driven by that idea. And yeah, that was great. Sport climbing is something that I certainly enjoy, that I love to do. But at the moment I just, you know, try and spend every minute that I have in the mountains, and no matter if it's running around or climbing around, I just like it to be outdoors. I just like it to be on big walls and big mountains, and that's what where my focus lies, and not in the pure difficulty. Alpinists are forced to be creative, find new creative approaches to mountains, find new objectives, and yeah, there is challenges all over. People, yeah, certainly don't have to travel that far to find adventures. I mean, you can have adventures in your home mountains as well. The question is, if you want to put up a new route, you know, and there is already, just imagine it as a blank piece of canvas, right? If the canvas is completely blank and there is no lines, then you can draw the line wherever you want. And that's the Himalayas, more or less. There's very few lines there that have been climbed. If you look into Chamonix, the Alps in general, you know, there is lines all over the place, and it's hard for you to pick your line. It's hard to put up your line and leave a mark yourself. So there's just less space for that, and I think that, you know, mountaineering, the true heart of mountaineering has always been exploration. It's always been first ascents, and that's why first ascents are also what we alpinists are looking for the most.